Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. There are just so many great pieces of news these days about crypto and what's coming that it's difficult to narrow it down to what to talk about every day. And so I kind of have to break it down into a few decent pieces of news and then give it to you that way and do 2 or 3 videos a day. That seems to be the most effective way. But it's a great thing for you and me that there is so much great news, because it all points to what's coming for all of us. This article this morning that I found was that Yale University has invested $400 million in the Paradigm Crypto Fund. So I wanted to make the point here. Yale University, as you all know, is an Ivy League university in the United States, and the people that are connected to this university are the most powerful people in the world. And the other point that I want to make is that Yale, and it says it right here, the report suggests that Yale, which boasts the second largest endowment among educational institutions globally, the second largest endowment globally, and they thought that it was a good investment to put $400 million of that endowment into investing into a crypto fund. That tells you a lot right there. But what they did, this was one of the Coinbase founders, Matt Huang, and he was a former partner at Sequoia Capital. It says that, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, Huang left Sequoia to join Oceanfront in setting up the new fund in June. Sequoia, which is one of the largest venture capital firms in the world, also invested in Paradigm, according to that article. So this is huge. It's just yet another obvious, in-your-face example of the smartest people in the world. I mean, the people that go to Yale are some of the smartest people in the world, and so that means that the alumni of Yale are some of the smartest people in the world. The backers of Yale are some of the smartest people in the world, and the alumni are the ones that are funding this school. These people do not do stupid things. These are not people that travel in groups of stupid people. They know what's coming. And so I wanted to point that out to you. Okay, there was another article that came out this morning that I thought was interesting. You'll remember the other day I covered that a Charles Schwab executive was being added at Coinbase. This is not a coincidence. A while back, those of you that have been listening to me for a while, I proposed the theory. Goldman Sachs had their previous CEO, Lloyd Blankfein, had been put out to pasture, and I floated the idea. And then I read an article to you about the new CEO of Goldman Sachs, and the article made a statement about how the Goldman Sachs the new CEO was very crypto friendly. And at that time, I said, see, this is how huge crypto is going to be. They're literally putting CEOs out to pasture. Well, something similar is what I believe is going on at Coinbase right now. For many of us have been screaming at the TV every time Coinbase comes on CNBC and they tell us they've got this huge announcement. And we're all looking at it like, obviously, XRP, the greatest digital asset ever created in the history of the world, they're going to add it. And that's what this announcement is every time. And every time we've been disappointed. Well, I believe we've been disappointed because Coinbase, from its founding, was founded and run by guys that are Bitcoin maximalists. And I believe they were anti-XRP from the start. And that's kind of how I always thought. Now, I'm not saying that some of their backers were anti-XRP. I think some of them are investors. But I believe Brian Armstrong and who knows about this guy, Adam White, but I believe that the start of that company was a pro crypto movement the way that Bitcoin was. It started all as an anarchist movement. But I believe that what Coinbase, what is happening to Coinbase, I saw this same type of thing in the .com bubble, and that is where as you get closer to these companies going public and having to have more of a professional presentation, a couple of things are happening. Like in the .com bubble, the many of the young companies, when they first got their funding, the inside of the company is you'd see basketball goals, and it was a fun atmosphere. And then as they got towards IPO, it started getting a lot more serious. Well, I believe in the case of Coinbase, it's getting a lot more serious now because they're moving in that same direction. But I also believe that anyone who, I believe that the investors in Coinbase and the serious people that are being brought on board are correcting the children that started the company, those that are trying to hold on to some philosophical belief. I believe that those things are being pushed aside by the serious investors. That's why they're about to start adding serious digital assets like XRP. And I believe that anybody who is not considered in that group of the new serious guard is being walked out the door, and I believe that this guy's one of them. And I'm not saying the guy got fired. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying that over time you will see a much more serious set of people running Coinbase, and it'll all be run because it makes business sense. It's not going to be run out of any kind of philosophy of a founder. I can promise you that. So I thought this was interesting. Now I want to get to what I really want to talk to you about. The market in the United States on CNBC, I was watching last night, the market had gone down as much as 350 points yesterday. Those of you that have listened to me for a long time, I am on the record. I've said it. I've told you that Bitcoin was hatched out of the financial crisis. Bitcoin was someone's answer, and I don't know who, but it was someone's answer to all of the irresponsibility of our governments over the last really 50 plus years, which is what created the financial crisis. When I believe that when those bailouts started and it was realized, and I'm not saying that Bitcoin had not been in the works before that, but I don't think it's any coincidence that Bitcoin came out publicly at the time, right around after these bailouts and all of the financial crisis was happening and did happen. I believe it was for a reason. I believe it was literally an answer to what the governments and the people running the countries of the world had done to its people. They had destroyed their money. They've spent 50 plus years destroying their money, printing it into oblivion, putting us into crazy debts, and in the last 10 years, keeping interest rates ridiculously, artificially low to keep the Ponzi scheme going. And I've said for a long time, and this article is from today, what you're looking at, it says the last time rates soared like this, the stock market plunged to double digits. And the point I want to make here is for the last 10 years, and I've told you this before, on average, in the history of the world, every 6 years you have a recession. We have not had one for over 10 years now. We have only not had one for over 10 years because of the exact same irresponsibility that created the 2008 financial crisis, but this time it's worse. And the reason it's worse is that instead of letting the world go ahead and experience the pain in 2008 that was inevitable, and letting us go through a recession or whatever, a depression probably is more like it, they have made the problem 10,000 times worse. They've spent the last 10 years printing money, keeping the interest rates ridiculously, artificially low, putting us in mountains and mountains of debt. And listen, regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, the current president, or any president or prime minister across the world, there's one thing that I believe that's a big, huge problem, and that is that they're all in a box. No matter what their intentions are, no matter how great you think their monetary policies are, I believe they're in a box. I believe they're in a box where the debts of the world can only be managed. They would never come out and say that. But my point in going over all of this is I believe that it's like a volleyball game. I believe the setup the ball has been set up and it's up in the air, and the world is about to experience a spike. And the spike, and I don't mean a spike up, I mean a complete implosion of the markets of the world. And I've said for a long time, I've given you many, many, many reasons why I believe cryptos are going to go up. Many reasons. But I will say it again, and I'll keep saying it. The biggest reason that I believe that we are right at the perfect moment in time for anybody that's holding crypto is because of the debts of the world, and what is going to create the biggest loss in faith in governments and the people that are supposed to be keeping us safe in this world, the people that are running our countries. I believe that you're going to have the biggest crisis in faith in our governments and institutions in the history of the world. They've set us up for over 50 years for this, and they've tried to keep the Ponzi scheme going for the last 10 years. This article you're looking at right now, the last time rates soared like this, well, guess what? My father has told me stories many times about what it was like in the 70s under Jimmy Carter when interest rates went into the 20% range. Craziness. Imagine what your life would be like right now if we had 20+% interest rates. Well, remember this. Never in the history of the world have interest rates been as low as they are now for as long as they have been. This is a ridiculous joke of an experiment. Never in the history of the world has have the countries of the world been in as much debt as we're in right now. It's never happened in the history of the world. But history will tell you that anytime things don't make sense, at some point it comes time to pay the fiddler. And I believe when it's time to pay the fiddler, the greatest part of the market of the increase in the crypto market is going to be from benefiting from this lack of faith, because I believe that the investors of the world are going to hit the exits. And you know what else I believe? I believe that all these people like TD Ameritrade that is opening a crypto exchange, and Fidelity and the New York Stock Exchange, I think they all know it. I believe that all of them know that the stock market, I believe they all know that we are set up for a tremendous collapse. And I think that when everybody hits the exits, it's going to be because of a loss of faith. And so now I want to show you the article. Now, I've been saying this for a long time, but this article I saw this morning, and this is exactly what I've been saying. Investors think cryptocurrency prices would rise in a recession, Fundstrat survey finds. They surveyed institutional investors, and these are the people who are serious people, institutional people. And I think it was 72% of them said that they believed that cryptocurrencies would benefit from us when the stock market goes into recession, the markets of the world. This is what I've been saying all along. But and so what I'm saying to you is that this next crisis, it'll be a debt crisis. And when people lose faith in the governments and the institutions, the exits are going to be hit. And when they do, they go to crypto. And I believe this portion is the part that a lot of people in the crypto world on YouTube and Twitter, this is what's not talked about very much. This is just my opinion. And some people agree, but I'm just telling you, this is where I think that even more money than you can even dream of is going to come from flowing into this market. But and the reason is crypto by design, not all of them, but XRP and several of them, Bitcoin's the same way. These are deflationary. They're not making any more of it. And so as people pile in, there's not any print button. It is what it is. And so it's a hedge. So what I want to read to you now is this is from Maddie Greenspan in this article, the senior market analyst at eToro. The guy did not necessarily agree with what I'm saying, but this quote is what I've been saying all along. This is kind of in line with what I've been saying. He says, however, I do see why investors think that. He said, Bitcoin was built on the ashes of the financial crisis to provide an alternative to fiat money run by governments and banks. If there was a catalyst that would make people question the role of these institutions, then I can see them moving higher. And that says it all. If there is a loss of faith, and I've told you all, Google it. The final thing, if I don't have to tell you, if I tell you nothing else in this video, and I'm about to finish it, but I want you to Google going into your weekend. I want you to all Google, because many of you have not heard me talk about it. I want you to Google the island that where it's Cyprus. I was drawing a blank there for a second. Google. I want you to Google these words: Cyprus bail-in, because Cyprus experienced a debt problem a few years back, and this is the reason that I believe people will hit the exits when the governments of the world finally realize that the game is up. And when these stock markets and debt markets and all this start to collapse as a result of all of this irresponsibility over the last 50 plus years, when it happens, they will come up with ways undreamed of to go and get your money. And if you Google Cyprus bail-ins, it's already been done. The model's already been set up. What happened in Cyprus is they literally declared a bank holiday when there was a debt issue. They declared a bank holiday. The banks literally shut down and did not open up for 3 or 4 days. And while they were shut down, they shaved off the savings of the citizens of Cyprus. Shaved off, I don't remember what the figure was, 10 or so percent. Just like that. Gone. And it was the Cyprus citizens' patriotic duty to help the country. I'm sure they came up with some kind of BS to feed the people. But that's what I'm telling you. Crypto, the safe haven status of crypto, in my opinion, will be the biggest catalyst out of all of them. Now, there's another 3 to 5 reasons that crypto and especially XRP is going to go crazy, but this is the one. This is the big one, in my opinion, over all of them. I'm the digital asset investor. I am not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. The digital asset investor is going to be here for this entire ride. Have fun. Have a good weekend.